I'm grateful for that extra time. Yes.
Your Honour, I regret to say I have an issue to raise, if I might.
Yes.
I wonder if I might hand up a document to you. Give a copy to our other friends. This is a follow-on from what was raised with you earlier this week. And you'll see that what I'm providing to you is the editorial of the Northern Territory Independent dated 6 September 2022. Your Honour, it is not I wish to be raising this distraction in the course of this inquest, but when there is what we regard as contumelious disregard for Your Honour's latest non-publication order, we feel that we should draw it to your attention. Let me explain what I'm referring to.
Yes.
The editorial refers to what it's done before. It makes various accusations, as you can see on the first page, against the Police Commissioner. And then moving on to the next page, it advances a defence, so to speak. And then in the paragraph before the dot points, does you want to see that?
Yes.
But just in case. It then purports to reiterate its position, saying, providing what it calls a brief summary of its reporting in recent days. And you'll notice that it frames it as based on a copy of an internal police report prepared for the coroner, and then characterises that. So far as we best can understand what the writer is endeavouring to communicate in this piece, Your Honour, it is referring to one or other of the versions of the Pollock drafts. Now, Your Honour will be aware of what I'm referring to when I speak about this. Those assisting you worked for many months to provide you with a report, to inform you about the background to this inquest and the issues which you might consider, in due course enabling you to frame the scope of the inquest.
Got it. Okay.
Pollock generated a variety of drafts in the usual way that anyone does when moving toward formulation of a report. In due course, Superintendent Pollock gave precedence to Commander Proctor, who completed the task for Your Honour, and in due course provided a report to you, which constitutes the background, and a very useful one, we say, to the task which Your Honour has. And in the course of that, the Pollock material was provided, as we understand it as well, by way of background. So to characterise the drafts, because they weren't a report, they were no more than that. The report is the Proctor report. An internal police report is a mischaracterisation. To suggest that there's been any attempt to hide it is disingenuous. Passing off of it as some dramatic document is just incorrect. The various drafts of Mr. Pollock are on the inquest brief, but Your Honour's made now 2 non-publication orders, and I don't need to remind Your Honour of why you've done those. And Your Honour referred to the reason for making non-publication orders when this issue was raised with you on Tuesday. And what you can see in the dot points under the paragraph to which I've been referring is that there are multiple references to the previous articles to which I've previously drawn your attention. The summaries retain the same sensationalist, inaccurate, and at times appalling language that has characterised the gutter reporting that has been provided by the Northern Territory Independent so far. This is part of a campaign, and if the Northern Territory Independent takes it upon itself to run a campaign against the Commissioner, so be it. But it does matter if part and parcel of that is an attempt to vilify witnesses and to mischaracterise the nature of your inquest. I'm not going to dignify the prose of the Northern Territory Independent by reading it out to Your Honour, but I do direct you to the second of the dot points. And Your Honour will know from having access to the Pollock drafts that this is scarcely a correct representation of what was in the draft. Ask Your Honour to turn to the next page, and what is the fourth of the dot points? It's the second on that third page. Again, it is nothing short of disgraceful. I draw your attention to the third of those, and it falls into the same category. And this time again, it relates to one of the witnesses in this case. I ask Your Honour to turn to the last page. The writer of this editorial, who doesn't identify himself overtly, refers to submissions made to you. And Your Honour will see at line 5 that the characterisation of what was put to you just 2 days ago, namely the day before this was written, is completely inaccurate. The Northern Territory Independent then laments that it didn't know anything about your non-publication order, in spite of what is apparently its fixated interest in what takes place in this hearing. Your Honour, we are apprehensive of what lies ahead if this is the attitude of the Northern Territory Independent. We do characterise it as both contumacious and contumelious disregard of Your Honour's orders and complete indifference to the obligation to adhere to proper standards of truth and fair reporting of an important judicial exercise such as this inquest. This time it is our submission that your non-publication orders have been breached. This time we do urge Your Honour to take action about it. We don't ask Your Honour to make any ruling or to make any announcement immediately. These are weighty matters, but we ask Your Honour at your leisure to consider what is the most appropriate action to take to uphold the dignity of this inquest and to make sure that it is not undermined by disgraceful and inappropriate misreporting of what takes place within this courtroom.
Yes, Dr. Freckleton. Dr. Dwyer?
Your Honour, I'll of course give that due consideration as well, rather than urge Your Honour to do something particular. Can I just make this note though, on the last page, where, as Dr. Freckleton said, the editor has written that Dr. Freckleton had accused them of breaching a non-publication ban that we were never made aware of. Can I make it clear to anybody who is listening that is the obligation of all news outlets or anybody wanting to publish material to find out what the non-publication orders are that have been made. Non-publication orders over the interim brief were made well before the commencement of this inquest, back in at least, I think, April, but it certainly that was made clear months before. And the journalists currently here in court, who many of whom are very experienced journalists, will well know that it is the obligation of news outlets to find out for themselves what the non-publication orders are. Can I say, for the assistance of everybody, they are now published on the website, but they have always been available from the coroner's office to assist.
And they've always been discussed in open court.
They have, Your Honour, they have.
Yes. Well, I'll consider that further, and if necessary, I'll give further submissions.
And Your Honour, just one other submission with respect to it. There are individual witnesses named again, and like Dr. Freckleton, I'm not going to name them again through my submissions now. But again, they are critical of individual witnesses, including witnesses who will be asked again to come to this court to try and feel comfortable to tell the truth, to try and feel comfortable to acknowledge things that they could do better next time. And the atmosphere that we are trying to create in this court is one where we can all lean in and listen to each other rather than demonise each other or criticise individuals. So I just make
And
the comment.
certainly at this stage, we don't have anywhere near the full story from those witnesses. We don't know what they're going to say, and it may be something enlightening. And we should allow them to have that opportunity to tell their story.
Yes, Your Honour, and we hope that they will come and not feel intimidated by anybody before they can tell their story.
Yes. So we will return to the progress of receiving evidence.
Thank you, Your Honour. And then I recall Derek Japangati Williams.
Senior ACPO Williams, just before you commence your evidence again today, yesterday I neglected to swear you in, so just before you begin your evidence today, do you promise that the evidence you gave yesterday and any evidence you give today is the truth?
Yes, Your Honour.
Thank you.
Derek, yesterday I was asking you some questions about what it was like for you on the night of the 9th of November 2019 and the role that you played on that night in assisting the community. One of the things that you said early in an interview, and I'll just read it out to you, it's a This is at page 18 when you were interviewed on the 20th of November 2019. And you said, when you were asked what your role was in the Northern Territory Police Force, it's a really hard one for myself because I'm walking in both worlds.
Yeah.
And you said, I've got police law and my culture, so it's very hard for me. But yeah, I just wanted everybody to be safe.
Yeah.
In the circumstances on the 9th of November, outside the police station after Kumanjayi had been shot, do you think that you and elders were able to keep the community safe?
Yeah. Yeah. That night was really hectic, but we have made calm in the community. Yeah.
Derek, can I ask you then about the effect on the community long term? In the interview that you did on the 20th of June the next year, you said this is at page 12, it's brought everybody, the community, down because this is unheard of in an Aboriginal community. This is the first time when people were all shocked. In your lifetime, was this the first time that you had ever heard of police coming into an Aboriginal community like this and shooting somebody?
Yes.
And can you try and describe for us what impact that still has today on the community?
Yeah. It's still like we in the community, we still feel betrayed, and we're still mourning, and everything's like the community is going down, and they want government to listen that nothing like this happens again in any remote communities. Yeah.
And you've got some ideas you set out in your recent statement for how you can help the community moving forward and how other people can help. Is that right?
Yep.
In terms of policing, we talked about this yesterday a bit, but you say in your statement at paragraph 52, I think whenever there is an arrest planned for a serious offence, there should be an ACCO on duty and involved. And if one is not available, a senior elder should be asked to liaise. This is important because it means that culturally appropriate communication can be the first tactical response.
Yes.
If there's a plan to arrest someone and that plan changes, communicating it to the senior ACPO and the elder should be a top priority.
Yes.
You also, in your statement, talk about the need for particular training for police officers.
Yep.
And you say formal training for police officers doesn't equip them to work in a remote community.
Yep.
And recruits do their 6 months of training in Darwin and only about a day of cultural training.
Yep.
But for police training in Darwin, that's not enough to equip people working in particular communities like Yundamu.
Yeah.
What do you think should happen?
The cultural awareness stuff they do up in the college, they only do that for the upper NT regions. There's a little bit of knowledge about Central Australian regions, how we go about our culture and stuff like that. Yeah.
And in terms of new recruits that are coming into Yundamu, would it be helpful to get some specific understanding of Yundamu as a community?
Yeah, there should be, in not just Yundamu, but every remote station should have like a day induction so the constables can learn our culture for a day and meet the elders and how they're best to communicate with elders and get their understanding of the community. Yeah.
And would that involve also then sitting down with elders and hearing from their perspective about how they could best help the community?
Yep.
Would that be something that you would be happy to help with in the future?
Yeah.
Do you think you could help to design what that should look like for new recruits?
Yep.
You also say in your statement that another issue is that if police are based in town, they come to Yundamu, they usually only spend about 12 months to 2 years based in the community and then they go back to Alice Springs.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's like feeding on the ground like a bird, you feed on the seeds there and then, and you leave, but you leave behind that respect and everything from the community that you, evolved with the community. And when someone new comes in, they have to do it again and again and again. And it's just, but we need to get together and just learn more about each other. Yeah.
You said in your statement that in your experience there have been some police who want to stay in communities, but they have to go back to town after a while to fill some vacancies.
Yeah. Sometimes they have families, officers got families there, they need adequate education for their kids as well, and that's it. Yeah.
Does it, just listening to what you're saying there, Derek, does it mean that it would be easier for those police officers who, like cardio police officers, to stay longer if Yundamu had, I know it's got a good school now, but if you boost the schools and you make the services better for everybody, Yapa and cardio, then it's easier for people to stay longer.
Yeah, that should work out fine, yeah.
For someone like Annie Jolly, who's been in the community before for some years and she's been there for a while now, are you able to build a good relationship with her?
Yeah. I worked with Annie at Popanya, Kinto, and Yundamu, so we worked with each other for a long time, yeah.
Some police officers leave remote communities because it's hard to get a promotion by staying in the one spot the whole time, is that right?
Yeah.
And so that means you lose that relationship with them.
Yeah.
So would one idea be for the Northern Territory Police Management to look at ways people can be promoted for developing skills that they get by staying in a community?
Yeah.
You have offered this suggestion in your statement that police management should establish a specialised remote policing unit based in Yuendumu that's responsible for other remote communities in your region.
Yeah.
And that would result in senior officers in Yuendumu having greater control over remote community decision making as opposed to the senior sergeants back in Alice Springs.
Yeah.
You say in your statement that's actually something that you've been asking for some years.
Yeah. We've got senior sergeants in Alice Springs that control remote communities, but we want them out there to understand the culture and stuff like that, and how we work in these remote communities, and it's just get a feel for it, and we get visits from the senior sergeant and the superintendents, but that's not enough. It's just one day, but they should be there for a couple of weeks or so,
Have you ever known any Cardia police officers who can speak in Warlpiri?
Yeah, some are fluent and some just learning bit by bit. Yeah.
If there was, say, a way where you would it would be recognised as a skill that you could get a promotion based on, if you're a Cardia police officer, if you develop that cultural knowledge.
Yeah, they should. It's gonna, if they build a relationship, it's gonna build a cultural awareness stuff too. And if they get posted to another remote community, then they've got something in place that they can place with. Yeah.
You speak about 8 languages.
Yeah.
I think you could try and help teach Cardia police officers one of those languages.
You are.
And you said in your statement that you think that you need more senior Indigenous police officers and senior ACPOs to help the sergeants there.
Yeah.
And that would make the community feel better about policing, do you think?
Yeah. Seeing ACPOs like me, or sergeants, Aboriginal, Indigenous sergeant, or a senior constable, that'll make them feel comfortable that we've got somebody here who's like us, and they can interact, really good. Yeah.
Derek, in your statement you say that when you've had police come in from town in the past, you have had some issues with racism.
Yep.
Can you tell her about that?
Sometimes there's, tent-based policing is hands-on all the time, and there's been officers who's been coming from Darwin or Alice Springs or Catherine or Tennant Creek, the major centres, and they take that hands-on stuff to remote communities, which lacks respect and responsibility within the police force, and they just want to go grab hands-on, and for example, if you can't arrest somebody in town for a warrant or something, sometimes police kick the doors down, but in remote communities we don't do that. We just knock on the door and say who we are, and people come out. Yeah, that's it.
If you have police who come in who without that experience of remote community, who are a bit rougher and want to kick a door down or do something with a bit more hands-on, what impact does that have long-term on the community?
The trust will go away from the community, and when police come out, you come out for a reason, build relationship and respect with the community that you're gonna work in, and we don't want all this nonsense about kicking the doors down or grabbing somebody and bloody just pin him down on the hot bitumen and it's we don't want that. We just do everything sensibly at Bush, and we weigh up the options and yeah.
You explain in your statement that it's really important for community safety and relationships with local police that you're able to screen police before they come into Yuendamu, so you're getting people who understand?
Yeah, we'll be able to screen our officers, and the sergeant always asks me, we've got 2-3 officers applying for Yuendamu, and then we have a look and choose the best ones, and just build. Hopefully we can build a relationship with the constable coming and or this new sergeant to work with the community. Yeah.
And you also suggest that police should develop education packages and negotiate some protocols with elders and community leaders in relation to arrest protocols to minimise the risk that there'll be any violence involved.
Yeah. The sergeants need to talk to the elders before, and if they're going to arrest somebody, they should, communicate with the elders plus the ECBO, and if you do that, then you get a better outcome. Yeah.
Do you think that makes it safer for Yapa and Karia?
Yeah, it makes it more safer, and it's just for Karia Police and Yapa, so nobody gets injured. Yeah.
In relation to Kumanjayi and what we can learn from this terribly sad thing that happened, you say there needs to be more focus on the appropriate response to an incident based on how serious the risk is.
Yep.
So for Kumanjayi, there should have been no rush to arrest him.
Yeah, there shouldn't be, because he only ran away from Kabul. He wasn't a murderer, was something serious. He ran away from Kabul, and he wasn't any threat to nobody. And he just wanted to attend the funeral, and police should work that out properly. Yeah.
On a different topic, Derek, I was going to ask you about the clinic staff and their houses being broken into. One of the things I think that we're going to hear about from the nurses is that they were scared because their houses were being broken into. You didn't know that the clinic staff had left. That I would draw that. I'll ask you this: Did anyone consult you before the clinic staff left?
No.
Do you think that there's a way where if nurses are or anybody's getting their houses broken into and they're scared, that they can sit down with elders and elders can help work out a solution?
Yeah, like if kids breaking into anybody's houses, Karia's houses, like teachers or clinic or anybody in the community, they should consult with the elders and get them young fellas. So why did you do this, and go from there, yeah.
I think some of the evidence will be that ultimately one 12-year-old boy was charged, but there were other kids probably involved that police didn't work out who they were. Do you think that the community, senior leaders, younger leaders could help police to try and communicate with those young people and explain the damage they're causing?
Yeah. Like now I don't see the police come around and talking to the elders, because there's a lot of break-ins and, but we need to find out why they're breaking in, what for, and work with the kids, not send them to a confined or like juvie center. It's just gonna make them more angry, and we don't want that. We just want to work with the kids and help them through education or whatever. Yeah.
And we've heard from Samara about some of the activities they've got from Waidak for kids, and you've talked to us about being able to play footy and some musical instruments with kids. I don't want to put you on the spot, so there's lots of time to think about this, but do you want to suggest, Your Honour, any other ways that some of those kids getting into trouble might be engaged, kept busy?
Like kids like footy, basketball, soccer, music, and a way to engage with them, it's like sending them to these wide activities and help to build a relationship with the WADAC workers, so that WADAC also works as a leeway to get kids going to better school and stuff like that. So we've got kids in Cairns and Melbourne and Sydney that are in Darwin going to school, and WADAC's been really good with that, and just we need to work with the kids at all times, yeah.
And so Waidak needs to have enough resources and workers to be able to help all the kids?
Yeah.
How's the footy going at the moment in the community?
40 hours getting upgraded, so there'll be no 40 this year, but we're trying to work with WADAC so we can get some activity or 40 activities probably elsewhere, maybe Mandalin or Nyirby, close community, so we can take our kids to first day kids at like Pupanya or Nyirby or wherever. Yeah.
Is there an AFL competition that involves any of those kids?
Yeah, we've got we had the Tanama footy comp, and like I was doing all that stuff, like running the footy stuff, but I wanted more activities with the young girls, for the young girls, like basketball and softball, and yeah, just don't leave anybody out, make everybody feel comfortable, and they can do activities themselves, Yeah.
Derek, when Her Honour comes out into the community and sits down with elders, do you think you'd be able to sit down with us and go through some of those things that would help the community?
Yep.
And then the last topic I wanted to ask you about was again connected to what might help the community. You explain in detail in your statement about the situation with local councils. And you explained that in the 1990s, Yungu had a local council which was made up of community members from the north, south, east and west. In 2007, after the intervention, there was a change to the structure to a regional council. And it meant that there was a big regional council responsible for 12 communities. One of the initiatives for the local council was CDEP.
Yep.
I'll ask you about that first. Was CDEP good, run by the local council?
Yeah, run by local council, and we had probably 150 employees at that time with CDB, yeah.
And did that change after there was the change in structure to a big council?
Yeah, it's changed. It changed into RJCB now, that's called, and there's been like 200 people waiting on the waiting list and wanting job, but there's like 4 who can apply for jobs, and probably one of them will get a job. But we want everybody to get active in our community. There's a lot of stuff needs to be done in the community. Yeah.
So before, when you had that small council, the community council, that was made up of north, south, east and west sides, you explained that with CDEP, that provided work in plumbing, welding, gardening, traffic management.
Yep.
And that CDEP employed about 250 Yundamu residents.
Yep.
But these days, with that big regional structure, Yapa need to wait 8 weeks sometimes to secure a job.
Yeah.
And there's only a handful of people who have that work with the CDEP.
Yep.
Do you think that work is important to keep people out of trouble?
Yeah. The parents of the kids who break in come into town and just drink, and stay here for probably 3 or 4 months. And we don't want that. We want them working out in the community and get them involved in all these community events and stuff like that. That's why probably the kids are breaking in, because family are coming into town and go on drinking spree. Yeah.
So you say in your statement too that young people are leaving Yuendamu to go to Alice Springs because there's not enough work for them in Yuendamu.
Yeah, there's not enough work and activities out there, and they follow their mother and father because they'll probably live in town now. Yeah.
So you would like to see more support for Yapa to be employed in the community, helping their own community?
Yeah, every organisation needs to have Yapa working in all the organisations there and get them involved in everything. We don't see that. It's only probably few in clinic and the local shops and the place and the teaching at teacher or school, and that's it. There's there's other jobs that they need to be filled. Yeah.
And Derek, what you explained that after one other thing about that intervention that it caused is that Yapa lost some control over the community because there was no longer the ability for locals to make same decisions around employment and community. Previously, the elders and the rest of the community worked together to resolve those issues, and that doesn't happen so much nowadays.
Yeah, it takes away everything from the community, from the elders, where they've controlled the community before, and when there was break-in, we disciplined our kids. Now we can't do that because of government told us not to, and so how we resolve all these issues is if we discipline our kids, and government should give us the control back in the community. Yeah.
You explained that before, if the young people were misbehaving, the local council would have a meeting with all the different people involved and try to resolve it together.
Yeah, if somebody kids broke into the school or shops or anyway, we used to have a big meeting and in front of everybody discipline their kids. And what I mean by discipline is just whack over the bum in front of everybody. That made them shame, and they wouldn't have done it again. Yeah.
So we need to empower the local people to work out how to solve their own problem issues. Is that right?
Yeah.
And that means getting everybody to sit down together and listen to each other and work together.
Yep.
And have the power to actually do something.
Yeah, and there's nothing going on at the moment. There's no, all the stakeholders need to come together and work out how we resolve all these issues with the kids, along with the elders. That we're gonna better our community as well. Yeah.
So 2 other topics just under that. You said in your statement you had a permit system in the past that meant if people wanted to come into community, they'd have to have a screening process to make sure they were suitable and work out what they wanted to be there for.
Yeah. When the intervention came in, they took out the permit system, and we, anybody can just go there without screening. That I need a permit, and we don't know where he's been and what he's been doing. We're going to be able to screen him and find out where he's come from and what his background is. Yeah.
Derek, when you were at primary school in Yuendamu, you learnt Yapa Way and Kardi Way, and you had lessons in traditional culture of Walpuri, and there were many Yapa teachers. And you tell Her Honour that there are fewer Yapa teachers now. Why is that?
Probably because of the intervention, everything just cut down. We've got bilingual, universal two-way learning school, and we want that to, we want that to be boosted up so we can get more indigenous TAs or teachers in our schools. Yeah.
Last question, and might think it's an obvious one, but what's the importance of that two-way learning to Walker people in Indonesia?
Like something like this, there's, if you in a jobs that, like placing or health or Yapo will be working in two worlds as well, doesn't, if they're in place or anywhere, a school or something like that, we want everybody to work together, Yapa and Kadia, to resolve these issues and go on from there.
And maybe Cardia should be working in those two worlds too?
Yeah, Kadia should be working in two worlds too, and they should understand that, there's two worlds, not one world. We've got our cultural our values as well, and they've got their government stuff that they need to uphold as well. But we've got Yapa really in the middle of everything at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you, Derek. Those are my questions.
Yes, Mr. Bowe.
Thank you, Your Honour. Can I apologise from the outset? I gave a woefully poor estimate, and I think I've spoken to Dr. Dwyer about that, so I will take some time just to give you some notice.
Right. This time, Mr. Bowe.
Thank you. Are you happy for me to call you Derek?
Yep.
You can call me what you like. And the statement that Dr. Dwyer has been referring to you, that's taken many months for you to get right, hasn't it?
Yep.
And that's even after you'd been interviewed by the police back around 2019 and 20.
Yep.
And that's involved having like 4 or 5 different lawyers come and talk to you at various times.
Yep.
Like Maxine, Christian, Greer,
Yep.
Julia, and you've had to sit down over and over and again, haven't you?
Yep.
And you're telling me outside that that's made it very difficult sometimes for you to remember the detail of some things.
Yeah.
Okay. Why I'm raising that with you is that even though you've been carefully taken through it, there are some things I'm going to go through about what you've said in court,
Yep.
which may not be the same as some other things that you said before. Do you understand?
Yep.
And doing that, I'm not being critical of you in any way. Okay, it may be my fault or our fault in not being able to perfectly understand what you've been saying about some things.
Yep.
So the important thing for you to appreciate is don't think just because you've said something to me before that you've got to repeat it. You understand?
Yep.
We want to know actually what it is that you're saying.
Yep.
Okay. Now, just dealing with that first, also, Dr. Dwyer was talking to you, and also we've heard from Valda about the way Walpri English, Pidgin English, is sometimes quite complicated to interpret.
Yep.
You've spoken to me about it, but you have said that sometimes the way Yapa people speak back to you doesn't always communicate that they've understood, but it's close enough.
Yep.
Now, one of the things that I've learnt, at least in the short time I've known you, is that in your community, the notion of time is quite different, isn't it, to the time that we've got to be in court, for example.
Yep.
Like when you're off duty, you don't wear a watch, do you?
No.
And within the community, almost no one wears a watch.
Yep.
No clocks?
No.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's no clocks in there.
But when you go into your work, you put on a watch, don't you?
Yep.
But because within the police arrangements and your shifts, time is important.
Yep.
And in fact, the exact time is important.
Yep.
And just to use an example of a fairly important communication in what happened to Kumanjayi, when in the community you say to somebody that's yappa, that listen, I'll see you later, that could mean in 5 minutes' time, or it could mean in a week's time. In your mind, are you agreeing with me?
Yep.
Yeah. So when you're talking in either Walpri, Pidgin, you would use other words like short time or long time. Is that right?
Yep.
But you wouldn't be saying to them, I'll see you at 3 o'clock, would you?
No.
Because nobody has a watch.
Yep.
Right. So sometimes when the same word is used, as Valda has said, a different meaning is taken from the conversation.
Yep.
So when we get to the idea and the conversation of something being after the funeral, right? You've been spoken to about this before.
Yep.
In fact, yesterday when you were speaking to Dr. Dwyer, you said that you understood that to be that it could be on the Sunday.
Yep.
But in fact, when you spoke to police about it, can you find it for me? Police about it, precisely your answer was it could have been Sunday or even Monday.
Yeah.
And is that the more accurate description of the range?
Yeah. Like it doesn't mean if it's straight after the funeral or the next day or a couple of days later. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, in your interview with Carter, you said to bring him in. To bring him in so he could get Lottie and Eddie. So leave him for funeral. And me and Julie, we leave him for after the funeral, but not straight after the funeral, but Sunday or Monday.
Yep.
So the notion of after the funeral for you, as you understood it, right, as a member of the community, as well as a Walpri speaker, as well as a police officer, was that it was going to be not that night of the funeral, correct?
No.
Could be the Sunday,
Yep.
could be the Monday.
Yep.
In your mind, as you've said before, there was no urgency, even at that stage, to go and arrest him. Is that right?
You are.
That is, even after the axe incident, there was, in your mind, no urgency to go get him.
No.
And in your mind, in you knowing him, and you having never experienced him being violent towards you, and him having always complied with your request to take him into custody, that there was absolutely no urgency.
No.
And when that happened, that is when the attempt was going to be made, you felt that you could sit down with them, like you said in evidence yesterday, to 20 to 40 minutes to get him to understand what you're doing.
Yep.
And you believed that the best way to achieve that was for you to be there with Felix, and to approach him, and if for whatever reason he didn't comply and he took off, you could have additional police resources to catch him,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
And also a dog that could chase him if he ran off into men's camp,
Yep.
men's business camp. Is that right?
Yep.
So in your mind, even after the accident, your expert understanding of all the cultural factors that we've been hearing about, funeral, all the subjective things about Kumanjayi, that he's hard of hearing and he's a bit slow, that you needed to take time to make him feel comfortable to come into arrest. Is that
Yep.
right? And you believed, I suggest, that you were the best person to achieve that.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Now, that takes me to something that is, it's in courtroom terms, it's complex about taking you to something that you've said differently.
Yep.
I just want to take you to it and give you the opportunity to explain to us why there might be a difference.
Yep.
I'm not saying to you that you're wrong in any version. Do you understand?
Yep.
Yesterday in evidence, you mentioned that you gave much more detail of the conversation you had with Julie after she texted you. You remember the text about the IRT?
Yep.
And at transcript 186 yesterday, Dr. Dwyer asked you, can you remember what you said on the phone to Julie? Your answer was, yeah, she wanted me and Constable Alfeo, Felix, to arrest Kumanjayi the next day, do a morning raid there. Question, and did she say how that would work? Answer, yeah, me and Felix were to take the lead and IRT present but not leading the arrest. Yep. Dr. Dwyer, did she tell you a particular time that was going to happen? Answer, yeah, around 5 o'clock in the morning. Yep. Dr. Dwyer, and did she tell you where you should be at 5 o'clock in the morning or before? Answer, yeah, at the station before 5. So yeah, Dr. Dwyer, and did you say anything back to her about that plan? And you said, to some extent, but yeah, it would have been good that Felix and I arrested Kumanjayi that day or the next day. That's what I told her, yeah. Now, do you recall giving that evidence yesterday?
Yes.
Others may correct me, but do you accept that you've never actually detailed that to anyone before?
No.
You're agreeing with me, are you? That is, you haven't said it before.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm not sure about that, Mr. Bowe. Do you think you've told anyone about that conversation before, or was that the first time you recalled it when you were asked those questions?
Yeah,
yesterday?
that's the first time I
That's the
recorded
first
it.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
yes, sir. Your Honour, to be clear, I'm suggesting it's our fault for not getting it. I'm not criticising.
That's okay. I'm
Yeah.
just the negatives were.
Yes,
a
I
bit
understand. Yeah.
confusing.
I'm not as experienced as doing that as people in this jurisdiction because we don't do a lot of cross-examination of Indigenous peoples, Your Honour. The point I want to get to, Derek, is this. What you told us yesterday is clearly in your memory, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is the truthful understanding and recollection of what you believe you spoke to Julie about.
Yeah.
And is one of the reasons why that detail hasn't come out before is that you've been a bit anxious about giving a version that might not make Julie look good. Is that one of the concerns you have?
No.
I don't know that flows from his evidence, Mr.
No,
Bowe.
it's a question, and I'll get to explain it. I've sat down with this witness at some length about this issue, Your Honour, if you permit me. Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
No, I won't put the words in your mouth, right? Can you? Yeah. Can you just tell me why it is that you haven't given that detailed account before?
At that time, I was, because it felt that we, the family, and we've been pressured to get statement after statement after statement, and I couldn't recall at that time when I gave this statements to the lawyers, but.
Apparently, Dr. Freckleton wishes to raise something.
Your Honour, would you excuse me? There's a matter I need to raise with Mr. Bowe.
Sorry?
It's a matter I need to raise with Mr. Bowe. It can be done in court. It'll be very brief. Thank you.
To you, yeah.
Yeah, can I just remind everybody, just take the opportunity, when we had the two ways learning session at the beginning, there was the information provided through Jodie and Valda very kindly that it's helpful to get a story rather than, we're also trained as cardio lawyers to put things, but it might be better to have Derek's words about something, just a suggestion about remembering that because we're all learning so much on the job from Yapa.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Bowe. I'm sure you'll take that on board.
I'll try, Your Honour.
Because it certainly was, why I stepped in at
No,
that
absolutely. I'm not taking umbrage at all of the advice being given to me, and I will take it all on board, as I do when I'm corrected by my children, with all due respect. Derek, I may have been wrong in saying that you've never said it before. Dr. Freckleton tells me, and he permitted me to explain this, you may have told people working with Dr. Freckleton about this detail before. Is that right? When you've been talking about this?
Yeah.
See, nothing of what I'm
I'm
saying...
going to just interrupt again, and I really will stop.
Yeah.
It's been a number of years, and you've told us there have been many conversations. I don't expect you to remember what you said to whom and when you said it over many years when there have been so many conversations. Okay?
Yeah.
If you have an actual memory, then let us know. But if it is something that you really can't remember or you're not sure about, that is perfectly understandable.
Yep.
Thank you. I wasn't making light of what I was saying earlier. I was just appreciating how difficult all this is. Derek, let me get to the nub of it. What you told us in court yesterday was in fact a real and actual memory of the conversation you had with Julie, wasn't it? On telephone conversation with Julie at the time of those text messages. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. I lost my pen. And you can take from the fact that Dr. Freckleton came and spoke to me that he acts for the police and they all want to hear your truth. You don't need to be worried about anything you're saying here. Do you understand?
Yep.
And you can see Dr. Freckleton's nodding. I know it's been difficult in the last few days. Please tell us everything you know, okay?
Yep.
Yesterday, Dr. Dwyer asked you about any really good memories that you've got about Cardia Police, and you named two people in particular, and others later, working in Yuendamu in November 29, Lanyon Smith and Felix O'Feo, as being who were really good officers, and there were lots of others too. Do you
Yep.
remember? And you put in there the current Sergeant Officer in Charge, Annie Jolly.
Yep.
Now, in that answer, you then later on spoke about they always ask questions about when we drove around, what can we do, etc. Correct?
Yep.
And what you were saying is they were interested in learning from you how to do the policing. Is that right?
Yep.
But then you also said, and some though wasn't good. Right? They're your words, precisely. What did you mean by some though wasn't good?
Can you rephrase that question again?
Yeah. Do you want me to take you to exactly what you said yesterday, or do you want me to try to explain what I thought?
Yeah.
Let me explain what I thought. Dr. Dwyer was giving you the opportunity to speak about good police that you work with, okay? Good fellas that you can work with really well, and they respect your culture, want to ask questions, okay? And you're nodding? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you named those three people and some others.
Yeah.
Okay? But then you threw in this thing, and some though wasn't good,
Yep.
which I read in my poor grasp of your words, that whilst there were these good people, there were some other people that weren't good. Is that what you meant to say?
Yeah. Not at the not at Yuendamu station, but elsewhere.
Yeah. And I'm not going to ask you to name anybody or anything like that, okay?
Yeah.
But when you mean not good, did you mean that they weren't very good in trying to understand Yapa culture and how to police properly, or they weren't good people and they weren't very good to you, or what else were you meaning?
Yeah, they didn't want to learn Yapa culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, so that was the part that they weren't. That is, they weren't interested in becoming better police officers in the community. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because some of them were only just there for relieving stuff.
Sorry, I just didn't hear you.
Relieving. Like
Relieving.
For maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
So they're only there for a short time.
Yeah.
And so you felt they weren't really interested in finding out more about the community.
Yeah.
and then when they left, they were replaced with more people there for a short time. Is that what you mean?
No, the officers who went on holidays from the station came back from
I see.
holidays, yeah.
Okay, understand. Now, just jumping ahead to one of the last things that you spoke to Dr. Dwyer about yesterday, and just excuse me for taking you back to something that's still hurtful. You said that when you found out that you'd not been told the truth about Kumanjayi when you were at the police station and trying to help, you used the words, "I felt betrayed by my own colleagues." Do you remember saying that?
Yep,
And that you later explained that that hurt and pain still lingers.
yep.
Now, so what I want to get into and talk to you about is this thing that's the difference between having police colleagues and people having police being part of your real community. Do you understand?
Yep.
And what I want to get to is that point you made in your statement that Dr. Dwyer read out earlier about your hope or your belief that having more police officers who are Yappa rather than just being ACPOs. Do you understand?
Yep.
We've spoken about this morning.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Okay. You have lived in Yuendamu for a long time, but you have travelled around Australia, haven't you?
Yep.
You've been to capital cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide
Yep.
on holidays
Yep.
with your family,
Yep.
and you've been on various courses, sometimes to Darwin and Alice.
Yeah.
You walk these worlds and you can see a big difference, can you not, in the way Yappa people are living in Yuendamu and how people are living in the big cities.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference in the living conditions in Yuendamu for Yappa people, isn't there?
Yep.
And with the police who come and live there, they live in the compound,
Yeah.
is that around the police station,
Yep.
with high fences.
Yep.
Is there barbed wire on the top of the fences?
No.
And they live in their police houses in that compound, and you've never been into a police officer's house, have you, at Yuendamu?
I've been to some functions, but not in Alice Springs, yeah.
Yeah. But in Yuendamu, you've been to functions, I think, as I understand it, that have been held in the police station.
Yep.
And they were for police officers having a barbecue or some social interaction amongst police officers and yourself.
Yep.
But you've never been inside a police officer's house to have a meal with them or anything like that, have you?
Can I ask my little friend to ask this as an open question?
Yeah.
I'm just got concerned about the witness, and I'm really mindful of that two ways learning that we had at the
Okay.
beginning.
I'll rephrase it. Have you ever been into any of your police officers' houses to have a meal?
Yes, in Yuendamu I did.
Yeah. Whose house did you go to?
The sergeants in Lanyon.
Lanyon.
Yeah.
That's
Sergeants.
Yeah.
yeah. Lanyon Smith and Sargent.
Yeah. Any Jolly. Yeah.
Okay. Just one moment. All right. And what about into your house? Have you had meals inside your house with any police officers?
No.
But in terms of social interaction in Yuendamu, you would have other people that are not family come and have meals with you at your house?
Yeah, only families.
Families.
Yeah.
After the night of the 9th of November, have you had any contact from Felix? Have you had any conversations with Felix?
No.
Have you had any conversations with Lanyon?
Yeah, only yesterday.
Okay, but until yesterday, no conversations?
Yeah.
Okay. They've been quite respectful and texted you and given you encouragement and condolences, haven't they?
Yep.
Yeah. You see them as good people to you.
Yep.
And when they sent you these text messages with condolences, did you reply to them?
Yeah, some.
Yeah. And did you have difficulty replying to others?
Yeah. was I got in. I was asked by all the lawyers to get statement to meet up, and that's why I didn't want to reply to any messages. Because, as you know, when somebody's on holidays, you can't reply to anybody.
Yeah. Now, and you've had the commissioner and senior command come and talk to you personally to give you their condolences.
Yes.
And how did you feel about that?
Me and my family felt really good.
I just couldn't hear you. It's my fault. I just couldn't hear you.
Me and my family felt really good. Well, when they came down and said their condolences. Yeah.
You felt respected.
Yep.
By senior people in the police.
Yes.
And supported.
Yep.
Okay. Now, can I just go to the position you held as at the 9th of November 2019? You were by then a first class or senior ACPO.
Senior ACPO.
Senior.
Yep.
Do you ever use the term first class?
No. Yeah, when I was wearing my first slips, yeah.
So is first class lower than senior?
Yep.
Okay. And under the Police Act, you vested the same powers, privileges, duties and responsibilities as other members of the police force. Did you understand that?
Yeah, just the constables, yeah.
Yeah. And that included the power to arrest.
Yep.
And you've had that since 2010 or 13 or?
13, yeah.
And do you understand that all police officers in your station that you worked were aware that you had that power of arrest?
Yeah.
Now, I just want to look at how you rank within the police station in terms of duties and following duties. Are you regarded as being the same as a police constable in terms of rank, or are you not within that rank?
It's similar to constables, yeah.
Sorry, it's my fault again.
Similar to constables.
But you would regard yourself as being able to do all the duties that they could do. Is that correct?
Yep.
By
except
yourself?
sergeants, yeah.
Except?
Yes, except sergeants' role.
Yes, of course.
Yep.
Okay. Were you directed to do things in the same way as other constables, or were there some things only you were asked to do and some things you couldn't do? How was it? Did you feel that you had the same position in the station as other police officers?
Yeah.
The added thing being that you had this special knowledge of the community. Is that right?
Yep.
And if there was to be a conversation of what was culturally appropriate, you would believe they should come to you.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yep.
Okay. Now, once you're a senior ACPO, is there any further rank elevation available to you as an ACPO?
No.
When you gave an answer yesterday to Dr. Dwyer about how you felt about becoming an ACPO, Dr. Dwyer took you to how you would be respected as a lawman in your community. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And then you gave an answer that said it's a bit like in both worlds, it's like becoming a sergeant. You become more respected.
Yep.
Right. So the idea of having greater rank for you is something that you would like, I take it, in time.
Yeah.
And you now know, as I understand it, that there are programs to transition you from being an ACPO to a member of the police force.
Yeah.
Is that something you're interested in taking up?
Maybe.
Has there been in your mind some reasons why you felt you can't do that at the moment?
Yeah, family reasons, yeah.
Is that because of time away from family to do the course or something else?
Yeah, if you do a course, it takes about 3 or 6 months. And yeah, I don't want to be around somewhere that, there's no family around, yeah.
So in order to transition would involve you maybe having to give up daily contact time with family. Is that what you're saying? So
Yeah.
up to 3 to 6 months, I think you just said.
Yeah,
Okay. In going forward, would it be helpful for you to be able to transition if the service was able to take into special account the fact that it's hard for you to be away from family
yeah,
and provide some support, perhaps that they could go with you to do the course or something like that?
yep,
Or maybe the course could be brought to you and you wouldn't have to leave family to go up the ranks.
yeah.
Would that be something that you would welcome?
Yeah, maybe.
What do you mean by maybe?
Yeah. Maybe not, yeah.
You wouldn't find it helpful, or you're saying you're not sure you want to do it anyway?
Not sure, yeah.
Not sure that it would be helpful?
Depends, yeah. Not sure.
All right. I'll just leave it at that. Do you know of other Indigenous police officers in the Territory that are not ACPOs?
Yeah. There's,
About how many do you know of?
I know 4
For
that rank from superintendent to the senior sergeant, and constable. Yeah.
And the sergeant you're talking about is the one that runs the unit in Indigenous
Unit in Darwin, yeah.
In Darwin, is that
Yeah.
right? And I'm not saying this is your answer is definitive, but there's only a few of them. Is that right? A few Indigenous officers that you know of.
Yeah, that are in mainstream, yeah.
Do you think it would be a good thing if there was an Indigenous officer in charge in Yuendumu?
Can you rephrase that question again?
Yeah. I know Annie Jolly's a really good sergeant. I'm not saying she's not, okay? I know you've had other sergeants that have been really, really good. But do you think in terms of the whole cultural framework that we've been talking about, that it would be a good thing, not a better thing, a good thing, that there was an opportunity for the officer in charge at Yuendumu to be Indigenous?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to tell me why you think that?
Just around the cultural awareness stuff, if they see a sergeant who's Indigenous, then they'll work with him, work with the elders and to get a better outcome.
Just going now back to more specifically your time at before you went on leave in 2019, when there was information given to the Yuendumu station that a local person was wanted for arrest, was there any protocol in place at Yuendumu as to what might be the safest way to perform a peaceful arrest?
I don't know if there's any protocols put in place, but the sergeant, and he always talks to the elders and work out how to arrest people.
This is Sergeant Annie Jolly.
Yeah, and Jolly, the sergeant now, yeah.
Yeah, she wasn't, and so your experience with her was that if there was that sort of situation, she would come and talk to you
Yep,
and ask you how to go about it.
yeah.
Okay. Now, did she do that on every occasion, or was it?
I just helped my friend because it might be a hearing thing, but Derek also said that she would talk to elders.
I did miss
Yeah.
that. Thank you. So what she would do was properly go about trying to find out what the safest way to perform a peaceful arrest, not just with you, but other senior Yapa in the community. Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, after she left and Sergeant Frost was there, was the situation the same or different?
Bit of mix. Like she would ask us to. She would go around talking to Alice as well and work out a plan, but sometimes, she wouldn't. But it's up to her how she wants to work, how to proceed with arrest or something like that.
Yeah. Well, because of her rank, it's obviously up to her. I guess what I'm asking is, as I understood it, when Annie Jolly was there, that would be her usual thing, that is to find out as much as possible of how to do something properly. Are you saying that that was not always the case with Sergeant Frost?
No. Yeah, she came from Darwin, and that was her first stint out bush, and she was getting to the grip where how to manage or plan out arrests with everybody, and but she went around talking to Alice as well. Yeah.
Okay. I think your evidence yesterday was the first that you were aware that there had been an arrest attempt of Kumanjayi around those days was after the accident incident. Is that correct?
Yep.
So before that, were you aware that Kumanjayi was the subject of an arrest alert?
Yeah.
And did you find that out through the police systems? The Promise system?
Yeah. We've got bulletins coming out every week.
I'm sorry, I just didn't hear you.
Bulletins,
Yes.
police bulletins that comes out, and if there's people with warrants or wanted for questioning stuff like.
And that is that accessed by you off a police computer?
Yep.
And when you found that out, did you still not know whether or not he was in Yundamu? All you knew is that he'd left Kapu, is that right?
No, I didn't know he left Kabul.
Did you only know that there was an arrest alert for him,
Yeah.
with no more detail?
No.
And knowing that, and knowing who he is to you, did you talk to anybody in police of how you might help in any arrest?
Yeah, my understanding was to him to be arrested the next day with the family.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
Or even family bringing him to the station.
Yeah.
And
And that's the talking you did with Julie after the accident incident when you went to the Robertsons' house, is that right?
yep.
Before then, had you spoken to any police officer at all about Kumanjayi being arrested?
No, there was a funeral meant to be held on Friday, and there was I only knew that he was at Yundamu Wednesday after that X incident, and we worked out from there that we gonna consult with the family and have them families bring him in, but Julia had other plans for the next day.
I
Yeah.
understand. Derek, you now know that Lanyon Smith and Christopher Hands went to arrest Kumanjayi at the Robertsons in the afternoon or early evening of the 6th of November. You now know that, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah. You were not on duty that day.
No.
Do you remember that you were on duty with Senior Constable Hand the day before?
Yeah.
And you worked out at Nirapi, is that right?
Yep.
And you finished your shift around midnight.
Yep.
So you'd worked with him all day.
Yeah.
Did he mention to you at all
No.
that he was either planning to or thinking to arrest Kumanjayi?
No.
Okay. And did Lanyon Smith have any conversation with you about how to go about arresting Kumanjayi on that occasion?
On Tuesday?
Yeah.
No.
You saw him in the station, I take it, or did you come across him? Or
No, we work shift, so we probably cross path, but we do evening and early shift, so
Okay.
we're on.
so, am I right that neither Smith or Hand spoke to you about arresting Kumanjayi and at all before they tried to do so when the incident occurred?
No.
You're agreeing with me? Are you? I put that question so badly. Did they or did they not
No.
speak to you? They
No.
did not speak?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Your Honour, we do need to take a break at some time.
I'm happy to do it now if that suits you.
I just
Yeah.
didn't want to interrupt.
No, happy to do it now if that suits you.
All right, 15 minutes.